I believe this is the very first Blu-ray movie I've ever owned. That's probably a fact. Hi, welcome back to the channel. Captain America: The First Avenger came out in 2011, set 3 years after the start of the MCU. In 2008 with Iron Man. If you were to watch this now for the very first time, I'd say go in it with low expectations. Don't expect a lot of MCU knowledge thrown at you. Don't expect Guardians of the Galaxy to be in this movie. No, this is the beginning. This is the introduction to Steve Rogers, Captain America, played by Chris Evans. And this movie is not only a real, true underdog story, it's a love letter to what we all aspire to be. This movie is essentially the building blocks to what initially Kevin Feige and the crew then were building. And this movie doesn't feel like your typical MCU movie. Let me just break down the synopsis real quick. Joining forces with Bucky Barnes and Peggy Carter, Captain America leads the fight against the Nazi-backed Hydra organization. Yeah, as I said, this movie is a real underdog story. It is an American driven narrative. We have a young Steve Rogers, just a Brooklyn kid in the early 1940s, and at that time America was going to war against Nazi Germany, and he wanted in on the fight, but unfortunately his stature, his health problems kept him out of the war, kept him from joining the army in this movie. So along comes this scientist, picks him apart, sets him apart from other soldiers, other participants for the secret program. This movie doesn't set a bar, doesn't raise the stakes. It just gives us here's another entree to what's to come. Here's a little taste of what to expect down the road years from now. And I just like that. It's its own thing. A movie like this could be talked about for days. I thought the casting of Chris Evans as Steve Rogers is one of a kind, a genuine, good-hearted casting, and you don't see those these days. Very often these days we see actors in multiple films and all of a sudden they get this superhero role. But before this movie, Chris Evans worked his tail off a lot of indie films. I like that the movie details a lot of Steve's faults and his struggles rather than the luck he's eventually given. For that, I applaud this movie. The movie also stars Sebastian Stan, Haley Atwell, Tommy Lee Jones, and Hugo Weaving. So once Steve Rogers goes through this procedure of becoming this super soldier for the war, he's then put on a pedestal. He represents what all of us back home are cheering for. And he's this red, white, and blue soldier, sort of like this Uncle Sam, so to speak. And just the fact that he's still himself. He's still that underdog. He's got that underdog in him. It isn't up until he finds out his friend Bucky Barnes, who joined the army also. They don't know if he's dead or not, so he goes and searches for him. He makes himself a leader, essentially, in order to find who's responsible for his friend's disappearance. Hugo Weaving plays a cult leader who's in charge of this Hydra organization. Basically, he wants to take over the world, blah blah blah. This movie had me by the first and second act. There was a lot of building, a lot of action that felt earned. I like that this movie took its time to make you understand and care for this Steve Rogers and his struggles. By the third act, it just wraps up so cliche. The good guy wins, the bad guy disappears. This is not, just a one and done. It's just part one of something much bigger. But I think that overall this movie did what it set out to do. And, Kevin Feige and the team really nailed this one as far as the script and what they were going for, this true American soldier that came from nothing. Sebastian Stan has a bigger role, but in here he's very limited. He plays Bucky Barnes, best friends to Steve Rogers, and the two, you know, are like brothers. They're inseparable. They joke around with each other. The movie makes quite clear that they're best friends to the end. It's like a sideline plot. It's not really a big thing in this movie. Guys, my final grade for Captain America, first Avenger, I give it an A-. Guys, thank you so very much for watching. Look forward to more Captain America as we inch closer to Brave New World. See you guys very soon. Bye bye.